Good morning. It is time to get up with Ron. Makes his decision on his way to Green Bay. You need to know everything, so we've got Schefter right off the top. Then another Ron joining an exclusive club. Is it possible he is actually the GOAT and we're just not paying enough attention? And then the big move is on. We'll tell you why yesterday might have been the most important in the history of college football. All that and a whole lot more as we get up with you, starting right now. Today is the day we have been waiting a long time for. It is the day that NFL training camps across the country open, including that of the Green Bay Packers. And that is where a lot of the conversation will be situated today. Dan Orlovsky is ready, Mike Tannenbaum is ready, and of course, Schefter with all the information you need right here off the top as the Packers open their training camp today. And Aaron Rodgers has arrived in Green Bay. His plane arriving during the night. You see it there with the cameras all over the place watching. The Packers and Rodgers seem to have agreed upon terms that are close to persuading Rodgers to return to play for the Packers this season. But everything does not seem to be completely done. The man who knows all is Adam Schefter. And so, Schefter, I will give you the floor. What is the latest now on Rodgers' return?
Listen, Aaron Rodgers felt good enough to fly to Green Bay to get this deal done, but the deal as of right now, Greeny, still is not done. Essentially, the parameters of the deal are agreed to, but Aaron Rodgers still wants to see some things, be assured of some things. And again, he wouldn't have flown in if he didn't think it was getting done. But the Packers are scheduled to be on the field tomorrow for the first time, and the expectation right now is that Aaron Rodgers will be there. Again, some business for the two sides to wrap up today before he gets back on the field tomorrow. And really, if you go back 1 week ago, the sense and belief was that Aaron Rodgers was not planning to be there this week and maybe stretch it even into this season. But over the course of the weekend, talks between the Green Bay Packers and the Aaron Rodgers camp intensified to the point where the Packers agreed to make a number of concessions that were enough to bring Aaron Rodgers back to Green Bay last night. And when we look at all the concessions that they laid out for him, they essentially voided the last year of his contract in 2023. They promised not to franchise tag him at that point in time. They will clear up salary cap room this year. There are mechanisms that'll be in place to help his departure. And when we look at the list of concessions to him, Greeny, really the truth of the matter is the biggest concession that was made to Aaron Rodgers had nothing to do with money and had everything to do with the fact that Aaron Rodgers will have the freedom to choose where he wants to play in 2022, despite the fact that there is another year on the deal after this year, because they could not have cut off that year and made this the last year in the contract. Because what would have happened then is Aaron Rodgers could have left Green Bay without them getting the chance to trade him. He could have walked away without any compensation going to Green Bay. The Packers wanted to preserve the rights of the reigning NFL MVP, and so that's what they did. Now they can trade him after the season if that's what Aaron Rodgers wants, which you figure it probably would be unless they have some magical season, change his mind, change his thinking. But yes, that's how it all transpired and unfolded. It was I think, a marked departure from where the two sides were last week. And now they will see if they can get it all wrapped up today, which is the sense, but not there yet.
And to be clear, so that would mean that after this season, Rodgers would not become a free agent. They would still have his rights, but they would agree that they would move him. I mean, I was following all of your tweets yesterday, and essentially what Rodgers wanted was control of where he would be in 2022. And you are saying that one way or another, he is getting that in this agreement.
He gets to dictate where he goes. That is correct. And the Green Bay Packers, I think, will have some say as well. But there is language in there, if and when this deal gets done, that will enable Aaron Rodgers to be traded after this season if that's what he wants. Now, again, he's going back to Green Bay for the season, and the Packers will have the chance to show him that things can be different, that they want him around. Maybe they can do that in 4 months. I am skeptical of that, but we'll see. Stranger things have happened. And so, yes, that would be the situation and arrangement, as it were, that if Aaron Rodgers wanted to play the 2022 season in Anchorage, Alaska, or Sioux Falls, South Dakota, or wherever he wanted to play, the Packers then essentially have agreed to honor his wishes after this season.
Okay, and that would really be a story. All right, let me bring in the guys here. We got Mike Tannenbaum and Dan Orlovsky ready to go. I know everyone has a million thoughts and a million questions. Orlovsky, go. What's on your mind right this second?
Well, hearing that information from Schefter, it does sound a lot like the Tom Brady leaving Patriots situation 2 years ago. It's just not labeled as being a free agent, really. I mean, Aaron's going to have the opportunity to sit back and go, you know what? I am going to come back and play here in 2022, or go, you know what? I want to leave somebody else, and it just protects the Packers from him just walking out of their building and having the ability to get some form of compensation for him. The interesting thing is, like Aaron said repeatedly through this offseason, that there wasn't necessarily like issues with the team, it was issues with people within the building. Like in his words, he said it's about the people, and the people remain the same. And so I don't know what that organization can prove to him over the next 6, 7, 8 months, because the people are the same. And I love the saying, if nothing changes, nothing changes. And given what has transpired, like nothing changed. And that's the crazy thing for me, to sit here and go, what happened? Because nothing is different than it was 3 months ago.
All right, Schefter, I'm told you have something new. Go.
Well, I want to just point out before Mike goes that essentially these feelings have built up over time, just like he has never forgotten the fact of what happened on draft day. And you don't just forget things that unfolded over years of time. They're not undone. Just think about any couple in a long-term relationship. If somebody feels wronged over a certain period of time, or somebody has certain things done to him, he doesn't all of a sudden forget that, even if there are a special 4 months. So again, I think it's fair to expect that after this year, that this could very well be their last season together, and that Aaron Rodgers likely will be moving on after this season.
All right, Mike Tannenbaum, your thoughts?
I'm very skeptical. I want to see the details as a former GM, because on August 4th, 2019, Tom Brady redid his contract with the New England Patriots that made him a free agent at the end of the season. They couldn't franchise him. They couldn't transition him. Reportedly, based on what Adam is saying, that is not the case here, and we need to see the details, because what happens next year if Green Bay wakes up and says, hey, you know what? We changed our mind. We're not going to trade you. What happens if Mark Murphy retires? What happens if Brian Gutekunst moves on for whatever reason? A million things could happen. So until we see the contract, I am skeptical about what this quote-unquote compromise is. And my other point is, I have been in this situation multiple times in my career where a player has a year left or feels like they're going to be leaving, and that season doesn't go great because they're just not as committed. They're just not as focused. We saw it last year. I'm not saying this is Jalen Ramsey. I'm not saying that we know that Michael Thomas was upset in New Orleans. He just had voluntary surgery in June. Obviously, that situation bears watching. And all I'm saying is, if he has a bump in the road, if he gets nicked up during the season, is it going to be the same level of focus that we're used to seeing with Aaron Rodgers?
Schefter?
Yeah. And I think, Mike, when they get this contract finalized, I would think, I don't know this, but I would think that there will be some sort of provision in that deal that allows for them to trade him somehow, some way. I would think that the Packers have given indications that they're willing to do that. That's what the other side wants. We'll see how it's actually formulated, if it's formulated in the contract, but I would think that there'd be some sort of provision in there that basically specifies what we're talking about here.
And the biggest difference to me, Schefter, is to the point that Mike Tannenbaum just made. Tom Brady negotiated a deal in which he would become a free agent. That means he got to choose where he went, and that team didn't have to give up anything, any of its future, in order to get him. This feels to me like the opposite on both fronts. Rodgers may have a say in where he goes. He may, in fact, even be able to choose. Let's just use Denver as a placeholder here. He wants to go to Denver. If the Broncos know that, why are they trading anything of value to the Packers? It will give you a fifth-round pick for Aaron Rodgers. This all feels very, very confusing to me, Schefter.
Well, it's not clean, and it's not a clear breakup the way it was in New England with Tom Brady, that he could just become a free agent. And there are things that they're working out, and that's why I think this agreement is as complex and layered as it is, because the language has to be a certain way, and the league doesn't allow certain things to be put into writing. So they're trying to figure this out. And again, it's a tough thing to envision right now without seeing it, but it is not clear and delineated how it's going to work, other than to say, like I'm telling you, that I believe Aaron Rodgers is expected to have the freedom to choose where he'll want to play in 2022. Don't know exactly how that's going to happen. Don't